Lizzy from thishouseofcards.blogspot.com. I'm going to share how I made this outdoorsy themed card using several of the new Lawn Fawn sets. The primary sets that I'll be using are the new Love You S'more stamp set, plus the coordinating die, as well as the older Happy Trail stamp set and coordinating dies. I'll also be using 2 of the border dies, the Speech Bubble and Grassy border dies, in order to make this card. So to get started, I'm going to partially die cut a circle in order to make a window for my outdoor scene. And I'm lightly drawing a pencil with the ruler just so I have a guide of where I want to partially die cut that circle, because I don't want to cut out the entire circle. So I'm going to line that pencil line with the bottom plate so that I know exactly where to cut the circle. So once everything's lined up, I'm going to run that through my Big Shot. And once that's done, you'll notice that only the top portion of the circle cut through the paper. And so to finish the cut, I'll just use my X-Acto knife and ruler and just draw a straight line, or rather cut a straight line across so that the window comes out. And now that the window is cut out of the card, I can go ahead and erase the light pencil line that I had drawn. For the next part of the card, I've gone ahead and I've cut 2 pieces of colored cardstock. I'll be using the green cardstock to make a hill using the Speech Bubble border die so that I can get a perfect edge. You could definitely cut the hill out by hand, which is something that I've always done, but sometimes a hand-cut edge can look a little jagged, so this just helps create a more finished looking card. So I'll just run that through my Big Shot, and I'll have a perfectly crisp edge for my hill. And while I have my Big Shot out on the table, I'm going to go ahead and use the Grassy border die and cut a piece of grass using a lighter green colored cardstock. Now that the base of the card is cut out, I'm going to start working on coloring in the images that I'll be using to create the scene. I'm using Memento Tuxedo Black ink to stamp because, as always, I'll be using Copic markers to color. The bears from the Love You S'more stamp set and the trees, the small one and the large one, are from the Happy Trail set. If you're interested in the colors that I'm using, I've listed them at the top of the screen. So I'll go ahead and color the remaining 2 trees and use the coordinating dies to cut out both the trees and the bear. And now I'm going to go ahead and draw a faint pencil line where the hill would be so that I can stamp a row of small pine trees in the back, just to create some depth to the scene. So I've gone ahead and I've used the small pine tree from the Love You Some More stamp set, and I'm going to be using some first and second generation stamping in order to create some depth in the background. Next I'll work on the sentiment, which I thought would look nice heat embossed with some Zing Copper Glitter embossing powder. I'll start by using my embossing powder tool to remove any extra stickiness that the embossing powder may have otherwise stuck to. And as you can see, I've gone ahead and mounted my sentiment and the cute smoke trail on the block, which I will use to match up the lines on the block with the lines on my grid mat so that the sentiment is nice and straight. And just to add to the sentiment, I'm going to be using my Versamarker to add a couple extra dots just to help convey some movement to the sentiment. And now I'll go ahead and apply my Zing embossing powder. And flick off all the extra and heat set it. And now I can move on to the best part of the card, which is assembling it finally. I'm using some liquid glue to first adhere the hill to the blue sky. And then I'll use some foam tape to pop up that window panel just to give the scene some extra dimension. So off camera, I die cut 2 clouds out of some white cardstock using the cloud die in the new Hello Baby stamp set. If you didn't happen to have that die set, there are actually several other Lawn Fawn sets that have small clouds in them that you could use instead. Or of course you could cut some clouds, which would be very easy to do as well. And now I'll start laying the other images out for placement so I can start adhering them to the card. all the images were adhered, I thought the sentiment didn't pop quite as much as I had hoped it would. So I restamped the sentiment slightly offset with some light gray ink to add some shadowing to the letters. If I had been thinking, I would have stamped it before there was foam tape on the back of the card panel, but it worked out fine despite the tape. So now I'm just going to use the grass die that I had cut earlier and adhere that to the bottom of the seed. And once it's glued down, I'll just use my scissors to trim off the excess. And now that the front panel is complete, I'll adhere it to a craft colored standard size card base. And as one last finishing touch for the card, I thought it would be nice to stamp the compass image on the inside corner of the card, which is from the Wish You Were Here stamp set. So there you have it, a cute outdoorsy themed card using some of the new and some of the older Lawn Fawn sets. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.